Good morning, everybody. For our next episode, next class with Stephan Pende of Stephan. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone, and also those who didn't participate yesterday. So we continue our exploration of the Lojong part of the text. Lojong, transforming problems, attitude training. And this time I would like to start with the practice of Tonglen. So that's the practice Tonglen Sangpo suggests in this working with these 6 different situations, 6 different challenges. And yesterday I started with a poem by the Sufi master Hafiz, where he describes how a rose opens her heart because she feels the encouragement of the light. And I use that as a metaphor for Pema Chodron's first step in the way she teaches Tonglen. She calls it the glimpse of Buddha nature. So that's where we start in this practice, with refuge, with calling upon our Lama, our Guru, or the Buddha. We start with connecting with resources, grounding, connecting with that which is bigger than us, however you want to call it. And the reason for that is we are able to hold, or we are able to experience present moment if there's a container which can contain the experience, so that working with a situation like this doesn't overwhelm us, doesn't re-traumatize us. So in our first meditation, we will start, as always, I mean, that's like the foundational Buddhist practice is to connect with bodhichitta, to connect with one's teacher, to take refuge. So that's like the preliminary practice before we do the actual practice. So in this meditation now, I will invite you to connect with something in your life which somehow fits into these different themes Tonglen Sangpo suggests, like someone stole from you, someone attacked you, someone criticized you, someone humiliates you. And then he also, in one of the last verses in this section, he says that when you are emotionally crazed and intensely sick. Yeah, so I mean, it's a broad category. And the practice is particular for those moments where we feel overwhelmed. Like it is this moments where nothing seems to work, where it's just too much. So that would be a moment for this practice. And the important thing here again is I will invite you to connect with the challenge in the felt sense of your body. So we go away from trying to find a solution on the conceptual level. We go away from the stories, and we touch. We are with that challenge where it sits in the body, where we can feel it. And then there's the practice of Tonglen, so the giving and taking. And this time I don't want to use a complicated visualization. So the taking in here would be just a sense of approaching, a sense of letting it in, a sense of being with the pain. So, and if you feel like inhaling black smoke or something like that, you can add a visualization. But the important thing is here to just feel what you feel in the felt sense of your body, and you go to the edge, and that means you as best as you can, you try not to get lost in it. So you maintain a bit of a witness perspective. Yeah? So you go as far as you can go, but keeping your sense of me in the light, in awareness, in being the witness. So that's the taking in. And then the giving would be connecting with the quality which is needed. So connecting in general with the light which is encouraging, our refuge, our Buddha nature, our capacity for warmth and care. So we connect with that, and we give from there. We give from there in the situation, into the situation, and we give to ourselves, and we give to the person who is involved. And then we make this step of widening the circle. So we go from me to us. So we start to appreciate that kind of we let the identification soften. So on that level, Tonglen practice actually has a strong wisdom aspect. So Tonglen practice is also a practice of approaching the experience of no self, approaching a shift of identification from the narrative self into something undescribable in the end. Yeah? So Tonglen is not only a practice of developing the heart quality, it is actually also a wisdom practice. The shift in the Tonglen practice happens when our identification with the narrative self relaxes. It is that experience of I'm not alone with this, and my own willingness to bring kindness into this pain is also at the same time a gift to my surroundings and in the end to humanity, to common humanity. So this shift is not something we can do. So we do the practice, and of course it will take time to figure that out, and we have to do it more than once. So we do the practice of approaching and giving until the shift happens. And we will talk about this shift after the meditation. So it's not something you can force yourself to do. You do the practice, and then something happens at one point. We don't know when. Maybe not today, maybe not in a year, maybe not in 10 years. So that is, sometimes that shift is experienced more as a moment of grace. And that is then the moment where you authentically see a person, for example, who criticizes you as a teacher. So that's not something you can do. You can't force yourself to see a person who has hurt you as a teacher. That is something which happens from the practice. And that shift is kind of not in our hands. We can just build up the foundation and then kind of surrender and trust. So one thing I want to say before the practice, this is not a practice about getting rid of the pain. Yeah. So this is important, because probably we still are on a level in our practice where we practice because we want to get rid of the individual pain, the pain we have identified with. And then if the pain doesn't go away through our practice, whatever our practice is, then we feel like I'm failing. It's not gone. There's still the pain of the loss. There's still the shame. It's still there. Yeah. So, but that's not the point. The point is to change the relationship to the pain, not to get rid of the pain. And then maybe, something relaxes and the tension and the sharpness of the pain will lessen. But that is a side effect. That's not why we practice. Yeah. As long as we are in this body and as long as we are not fully awakened, there will be pain. So it would be childish to think that any kind of practice, whatever, will make us free of pain. That's unrealistic. I mean, the Buddha had pain when he had his food poisoning. Yeah. So that doesn't go away, but what we can change is our relationship to the pain, and actually then kind of using, it's a bit too strong, that word, but using the pain to open our heart. Yeah. And again, not opening our heart with the hope then that the pain will go away. No, opening our heart and being with pain, our personal pain, and then with the collective pain, with an open heart and without agenda. So then the next step after that is suddenly there is more space. There is less reactivity. So what that means is that we have the capacity then to respond to the situation in a more balanced way. So before the practice, we would have maybe started a counterattack, maybe even stronger than the way we have been hit. Yeah, so that is the instinctual reaction, could be for some of us. So now after this practice, the pain might be still there, but there is space, there is kindness, and that way of being in the situation then gives us the possibility to respond to the situation more aligned with our bodhisattva commitment. So more aligned with, so what can I contribute to this situation? What can I give into this situation? What can I give to that person? And of course, that what you give to that person could be a no, could be a setting a boundary. But that is then a boundary or a no which doesn't come from reactivity. So let's play along. Yeah. So it's just see it like as a bit of an experiment, so that we get a bit of a familiarity with this process. And I will guide you. But as I said yesterday, as in all other practices, it's so important that we find a creative, personal way to work with this. So we all will have a different piece of art at the end, which is actually also changing throughout time. A piece of art where we will add, and where we will maybe change something and add something. And that piece of art, your Tonglen practice, will be different than the piece of art of the person who is sitting next. It will look differently, and it has to look differently, because we are the same on one level, but we are also individual with different needs, with different preferences, with different tastes. Okay, so let's start with the simple adjusting our posture. So that is part of the entry protocol of the preliminary practices, is to adjust our posture, taking our seat, the Bodhisattva seat, and take your time. So this is not like, okay, so now I start to meditate. No, it's not abruptly. It's like just a sliding, and you bring just what your responses to what I said and what is here for you. You just bring this into the container of this meditation. And if you like, you can close your eyes. If your eyes are open, then you relax the gaze. And you take some moments to feel your posture, maybe adjusting a little the spine so that your chest is open. In the meditation posture, we also symbolize our soft front and a strong back. So the soft front symbolizes our willingness to experience this moment as it is. And we can afford to do that because we feel the strength of the back, the balance of the spine, and we feel how the earth, the floor, is supporting us. And there is a sense of shifting or dropping, sliding into the body. Almost like a body scan, not as controlled, but so just sliding into the body initially, including the feet and the legs, and the hands and the arms, but then bringing particularly the trunk of the body into the foreground, the felt sense of the trunk of your body. And you drop into the trunk of your body. And you notice what is there. And the breath is an ally in this shift. Maybe you notice the rising and falling of the belly, and softening the belly. And thoughts become less interesting. So thoughts are just recognized as thoughts. We unhook from that narrative level of our being into present moment awareness, into beingness, with being who you are in this moment, and experience that. feeling the aliveness. And all senses are open. So although you emphasize the experience of your body, you don't disconnect from your surroundings and from this voice. So it's not a narrow, focused mind. It's very relaxed and open. And then slowly, slowly, a rest happens. Just rest in the midst of your experience. And then the encouragement of light against our being. And here we can appreciate the virtual temple of our meeting, that we are here sitting together, breathing together. Nobody is alone. And then we call upon the presence of the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, other teachers, Buddhist or non-Buddhist, male and female, maybe also some tantric angels like Tara or Shinrizik. So that's very personal and different for everyone. What we want to approach is a non-symbolic experience of the presence of essence love, the loving gaze, the light. So remembering His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his voice is a symbol. We allow this quality which is expressed in that voice, in that image, in that presence. We allow that quality to bathe us together. And there is also the encouragement of the lineage of this text. So with each text, you actually kind of step into a space, into a room, into a sacred room. And with that, we're connecting with the lineage. The centuries of practitioners have been working with this text, and all the others who right now are working with this text. So we're sitting together, being protected. And allow your experience, sensations, sounds, feelings, thoughts to come and go in that encouragement of the light, the encouragement of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the presence of bodhichitta. And whenever you notice that you get entangled into the radio station of the narrative self, you drop back into beingness. And again, the rest happens. Just resting in the midst of your experience, which is surrounded and penetrated, suffused with the loving gaze. So the next step is that we bring to our mind a challenging situation. Maybe you already felt something in your body, something you brought into this meeting. Maybe you are not even clear what it's about, so that's okay. So you can work with that. But the other option is that we bring a situation, an experience which is unresolved, which we carry with us to our mind. Notice that you are using narratives and mental images. So you notice that the situation is not really here. The people are not really here, but you're working with inner dialogue and mental images. So you're working with thoughts. And you take a moment your attention also continues to rest in your body. Still some connection with the breath. And there's also a sense of the light. So the Dalai Lama, the Buddha, Lama Zopa, they are still here with us. And we are still together. So now notice where you feel the situation in your body. And if you already felt something, then that's now the moment to go closer. So where is it in the body? So there's the breath. And together with your awareness and your breath, you approach that area of the body, and it might be particular in one place, it might be more vague. And notice that energy. And notice that you are witnessing that energy. The story starts to fade. You might sometimes go back to it to increase the intensity of the sensations. But our main curiosity now goes to the sensations, to the felt sense in your body. How does it feel? Where is it in the body? Does it have a shape? Is there a color connected with it? What's the quality of the sensations, if you would describe them? Solid, soft, sharp, hot, cold. Is it like cotton or steel? So now the skill here we start to develop is to be as close as possible, also accepting the resistance, while still maintaining a witness perspective. And we're breathing into. So we touch that pain with breath and awareness. And you can emphasize that a little with the in-breath, that kind of stepping into, touching, letting it in. And while you do that, notice if there's changes. Maybe initially it becomes more intensive. Maybe it starts to soften. Maybe there's some other surprising changes in it. So the next step is that we realize that we're not alone with this. That what we're experiencing there, this contraction, this pain, that it is shared pain. We connect with common humanity, and we can start here within our little group. Just this encouragement that we are looking together. Of course, we all have our different topics, but we all connect right now and we look into pain. Not my pain, but pain, shared pain. Shared sadness or shame or grief, fear. So at this moment, we drop the mind. It's the pain. And we continue the breathing with less identification. So the next step is that we also connect with the struggle and the pain of the people who have inflicted that pain. If there's people involved who seem to cause, or the people who have been criticizing and humiliating or stealing. So we include them. So we relax the separation between us and them. This might be initially not possible, but let's at least say it. I see the pain. In the people who inflict pain. So, and then comes the giving. So we reconnect with the encouragement of light. We reconnect with bodhichitta, with the presence of the Buddha, with the goodness in all of us. And then we give to the situation, to the pain, what is needed. We give relief, forgiveness, generosity, joy, healing. And we can connect that a bit with the out-breath, if that makes sense. And we start with our contraction. So we holding that contraction into the light, into essence love. We put it into the hands of Tara, into the lap of the Buddha. And we again feel the support of doing this together. So you surrender the pain. or giving up the need to fix it and control it. Just surrender it into that which is bigger than you. And then we widen that circle, so we surrender the common pain into the light, into essence love. So we do that for all the people who are right now feel the same pain. And then we also give to the pain of the people who inflict pain, to the people in power, to violence in people. So we include that, and we give to that what is needed. So with the out breath, sending into all directions. And everyone receives healing. So, and then notice there's a change in the experience of your pain. And if that change or that shift makes it possible for you to be in the situation in a different way, maybe you feel the possibility of responding to the situation differently. And if not, just let it be fine. You still did do the practice, and there's benefit in that. And then let's just sit with whatever is for a few more moments. Feeling the spacious aliveness of your body, resting in the midst of your experience as it is now. And then you take your time to open your eyes if they are closed. And connecting with your surroundings again. So the way now I guided this meditation was really complete spontaneous. I didn't have like a script. So this is not like, oh, this is how you do it. Yeah? So it was just a creative guidance, which is of course based on many years of trying to follow instructions and continue to learn. And so if you would ask me now to lead a Tonglen practice after a short break, what you would get would be something else. Yeah? So I just want to say that. So it's not like, okay, so I have to do it now. So that's the first step. That's the second. I mean, I said the next step is, yeah, but it was really like, I didn't know at that moment when I said the next step is what the next step is. It just comes. And next time when I do it, it will be slightly different. So I move around and I shift also the sequence. Yeah. So that's it's always different. So is there any question? Also maybe from yesterday there was not so much time, or I didn't leave so much time for questions. Something you want to add, or something you would like to share? Marie, I think, or I saw a hand there. I don't know if that means something. Oh, okay,
Stephan,
yeah.
I wanted to say, I wasn't in class yesterday, but you referred to that beautiful image of the rose, which opens its heart with the encouragement of light.
Mm.
And I just thought that was so beautiful. And it just
Yes.
made me think that, the light is a condition, and like we're all conditions in other people's lives. And so it's just really beautiful. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes, you can Google that. Hafiz, encouragement of light, or the rose. It's a very little poem about which starting with the question: how can the rose ever open her heart to show her beauty? And then Hafiz says it is because she feels the encouragement of light against her being. And then he ends with saying, otherwise we would be too frightened. Yeah, and we would be, yes, of course. I mean, our reactivity, our response to violence, the way it is now, or to any kind of a challenge, our reactivity comes from that fear. We are frightened. And then our conditioning, our habits, they make us act in not the most creative ways. Yes. Yeah, so if there's something coming up, you can, we are not so many, so you can just interrupt me or write something on the chat. So yesterday,
Jason?
yes,
Stephan, I think Jason has a question.
okay, yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share because normally with that practice, I've always done it with the visualization and smoke, and it's never really resonated as much. And really, the felt sense today was so much richer.
Yeah.
For me, and I appreciate that. And I had a question yesterday that I didn't end up asking, and I was just curious because what's coming up for me with the talk from yesterday and today. Like when I'm on my dog walk, I'll smile and wave at people. And I would say here in San Francisco, only 25% of the time does that come back. And so I kind of just sit and just recognize that maybe there's some pain on the other side, some unwillingness to reciprocate or just let that in. And it just, so that was just coming up for me as you were talking about this topic. And how can I not just be like, oh, okay, it's, you know, it's okay, and just but in coming into the felt sense of a little bit of ouch for me too, like, oh, not being seen or yeah.
Yeah, there is actually one verse describing that situation. You know, when Tongme Sangpo describes, you know, people you have done good things for. I mean, and he is Ken McLeod is then referring to the most challenging situation probably is your kids when they turn against you. Yeah, so that's not just giving a little wave and smile. You know, this is like decades of service and sleepless nights, and you know, I mean, it's like it's incredible, the job, and yeah, and then something happens, and yeah, so it's an interesting situation. Yeah, so maybe there's something to be found when we get to that first. Yeah. And it's, yeah, and all starts with being aware. Yeah, so just being aware with how does it feel when you make a gesture of friendliness and nothing comes back, or you know, what does it do with us? It's a rich moment. So I want to use a bit Ken McLeod's commentary to say something about this shift I mentioned. So a shift takes place at one moment. Yeah? So that is from the commentary to verse 15, which is the verse about shame. And Ken McLeod writes, at some point a shift takes place. Something in you crumbles and falls apart. You see that the humiliation you feel is exactly the same as the humiliation others feel. And the humiliation they feel is exactly the same as the humiliation you feel. So that's that shift from me to us. Yeah? So other people feel the same humiliation. So it's kind of, you know, one kind of Tonglen, or one possible way to describe Tonglen in a nutshell is, I'm not the only one experiencing this. Yeah? So and just notice. I mean, so you say that would be like the practice. You say that, so you have like you have that experience and it hits, and you say, I'm not the only one who's experiencing it. And then there's a shift. It's difficult to describe what that is, but something changes. Yeah, so that's the shift. And that shift you can't make happen. It's what happens. Yeah. And we can't force it. Yeah. There's other responses which might be happen when you say this, and that is, yeah, but I don't care. It's my pain. I don't care about the others. Yeah. So it's not like the shift should happen, yeah, because it might not happen. Other things might come up, and that's, you know, when the response to that is, yeah, but I don't care. This is my pain. I can't feel the pain of other people. Yeah, of course, that's the narrative self, the illusion of separation, which makes us think that. But it also makes us feel in a certain way. So, and that's how we feel then. And then we are loyal to that. It's not evil. It's not wrong. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, and then we could practice Tonglen with that. So we feel the pain in that. We feel the pain of separation. And then we can say, yeah, and I'm not alone with that. There's so many people who exactly feel the same. I don't care about the pain of others because this is my pain. Oh, that is sad. Yeah. Maybe you all, maybe be all free of that. I don't care about the pain of others. Maybe we all be free of that. So you use a kind of failing in the practice as you make a next step. Yeah. All the stories about them and you vanish. So that's this, you know, that's this moment of a shift of identification. Yeah. So, and again, we can't make that happen. It's something which might or might not happen. That vanishing of separation. Your mind and body are at peace. The pain is still there. So that's an important thing here, that he says that. The pain is still there. So, but strangely, you feel whole and complete, and at the same time, like nothing at all. So the danger with this kind of description is then you know, we have an idea what should happen or how it feels. So he is just sharing his own experience. He's not saying should be like this for you. So he is working with his practice and he shares his experience. Yeah, so the pain is still there, but strangely you feel whole and complete, and at the same time like nothing at all. Yeah? So that like nothing at all, that refers to a taste of no self. Yeah, so you kind of you forgot yourself. Yeah? You feel complete and whole with the pain. You feel healthy with the sickness. Another kind of health. Because you identify, because you start to identify with a deeper dimension of your being. So you feel healthy in a sick body. You feel complete and whole in the incompletion and the craziness and the impossibility of this horrible situation. It's a paradox. In a way, this is connected with the two truths. Yeah? The appearance level of things. And at that time, the appearance level of things is seen as dependent arising, as empty, as having no solid core. It's not findable as something solid, real. And the absolute truth, or the emptiness. Yeah? So the connection with the light. So these two come together. The appearances, they are the appearances, and we don't kind of brush them away, but we see that they don't exist in the way they appear to us. We too much reify things. We objectify things and situations. So in that shift, that objectification, that reification starts to soften. So, and then he comes back to this point I mentioned yesterday, seeing the person who hurt you as a teacher. And then it strikes you, without that public humiliation. So we are in this verse about public humiliation and shame. Without all that shame, you would not have come to this understanding and acceptance. What is just described is a bit of like, it's like a mini awakening. Yeah, it's like, this shift of identification, this shift into seeing that things don't exist in the way they appear. So that could be called an awakening. I mean, not enlightenment or something, but like an awakening. Yeah? It's an awakening of a trance. Yeah? Before, the trance was all me and my, and why me, and it's only happening to me, and it's so injustice, and so on and so on. It's about me, and what do I do with this? It's happening to me, and it's the most important thing, and it never happened before, and I will never get out of this, and I don't have the solution, and it's happening to me and me and me, and it's only about me. So that's the trance. That's the trance. And I'm a bit humorous about it, but of course we can understand. It feels like that. It's you who lost your job. I mean, that's the thing. But why is it the thing? It's because of the narrative, the identification of the narrative self. It's based on confusion. It's a distortion of reality. We don't exist in that way. So the situation and the person helped you to awaken. And without that person, you might have a pseudo awakening in your retreat place. like something, kind of a conditioned nirvana just by calming down the mind. So it's wonderful, yeah. But no awakening, no insight. Because for awakening to happen, that which what you need to awake from needs to be present, needs to be felt. Then you can awaken from that. You can't awaken from that in your retreat house. So in that way, and now seeing the other person as a teacher is not something you force yourself to think. You act. So again, yesterday I said, seeing the other person as a teacher is not the practice, it's the result of the practice. It's something which happens, and it's not something which we can make happen. It happens or not, and it might take a month, a year, 10 years, it might take lifetimes. We can just do our part. It's just my Kindle switched out. So without public humiliation, without all that shame, you would not have come to this understanding and acceptance. The patterns in you were so deep, the holding so strong. Those people who denounced you, who left you no place to hide, really are like your teacher. In a strange way, you are grateful to them, and your anger evaporates. In a strange way, you're grateful to them. And that's like, wow, imagine if that could come through in us, that in a strange way. So it's not like the same kind of gratefulness maybe we feel when someone gives us a nice meal. Yeah, it probably emotionally it feels slightly different, but in a strange way we feel grateful to, and maybe you can, when you look back now in your life, into the dark times of your life, now from looking back, maybe you have that sense, this was really hard, but somehow I'm also grateful about it, that happened, because I can see that it made me who I am now. Maybe it made me a bit more human, a bit more humble, a better friend. It made me, something broke in me, and it made me more softened. So that's that kind of gratefulness, the gratefulness towards difficult situation. But to have that kind of gratefulness in the moment when you experience something intense, something horrible, and I mean, Tongme Sangpo, the examples he gives here, they are really, I mean, we all will fail in that kind of intensity situations. But we can see maybe our capacity to do that right there on the spot can maybe grow a little. So we can maybe feel, I can see myself being able to do that in a few years, or even now. But also we can, while we are in the midst of the tsunami, and nothing, it's just like, I mean, it's just like nothing, we can't do anything. It's like, there's not capacity to turn to anything because the pain is so intense. So, but even then, maybe we can remember, hey, this tsunami, like the tsunami 10 years ago, will pass. And 10 years ago, I felt the same. I felt like I will not survive this. This is too much. I'm going to kill myself. That's the only thing to get out of this. And I felt that 10 years ago. And now I look back to this and think, oh, yeah, I can understand that you felt like that. But now look, I'm here now. And you survived back then there 10 years ago. You survived. I can see it now. Look where I am now. And you can say to that person back then, 10 years, you can say, hey, keep on going. Keep on. I know it's hard. Just wait a little day, one day after the next. Just go through this. You don't see the light, but it will come back. And I know it will come back because it is back now. And I'm you. So now imagine the 10 years older than you now, your future self. He or she is saying the same to you now. The wiser self, the future self. She says, yeah, I know how it was. It was the most tough time in your life. But you know what? You will grow from this. And I know that because I am there and I'm looking back at you. Don't give up. The light prevails because the light is real. The confusion, the darkness is adventitious. It is based on confusion. And in that way, it's not real. It's real, it's real and not real at the same time. And actually, it would be a kind of spiritual bypassing in a moment of a tsunami and overwhelm to kind of say, yeah, it's all empty. Yeah, and I know I will. This is just a trance, and so that's not practicing. Yeah? That would be trying to escape the situation and not really go to the bottom of pain. So sometimes in our life, the only possibility we have is to drop everything and just lie down and just open and say, okay, take me. Take me. And trust the process at the same time. But trusting the process doesn't mean that the pain will be less.
Stephan?
Yes.
I can see that practicing as a bodhisattva and encountering, difficulties and in daily life, how beneficial that can be to opening one's growth. And then, you talked about retreat and going on retreat, and how sometimes, going on retreat or meditation or whatever can be kind of like what we're trying to get to is a place of bliss rather than any kind of growth. We just want to, that feels so good. Okay, because the rest of our life is, doesn't feel so good. So, but that's not the point of a retreat. So can you talk about like how a retreat helps you grow and open up if it does, or if that's, yeah. I don't know. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, yes. So one part of, so one thing we cultivate and develop in retreat is the familiarity with the light. We deepen our, because in a retreat, it's very likely that in the retreat we are not as challenged, so there's more space for doing practices and strengthening our refuge, strengthening our insight into the insubstantiality, strengthening our insight into impermanence, stabilizing our refuge, reconnecting with bodhichitta. So that's the things we do in retreat. And in the Tibetan tradition, it would be seen as highly beneficial and meaningful to spend your whole life in retreat. Yeah, so to do that, because they have really a long perspective. They don't look at just this life. But within the Mahayana tradition, you are not going into retreat for self-liberation, to go into some nirvana for yourself, but you make yourself ready. You make yourself a valid, a stable container to go into the world, to be in the world, and based on your capacities and skills you have developed in retreat, you then you are of service. Yeah, so you are of service because, and you can be of service because you operate not from the narrative self anymore. You're not operating from your reactivity. Yeah? So I think we are in a good situation when we manage to find a balance between some shorter retreats every year, meditations days, and the same time we have the challenges of daily life. That's definitely I think a very rich field of practice. instead of thinking, oh, I can't really do it because, you know, I don't do 3 years of retreat or something. Of course, that's also good, but that combination, I think, is actually a very rich field. There has been, I mean, there's a lot of, there's stories within the Lamrim, the Lamrim books, the Lamrim teachings about these meditators who feel that they got somewhere in the mountains, and then they go down to the village, and the first stone being thrown at them, like enlightenment is gone. You know, it's like, oh, I'm so enlightened, and then, you know, a dog is barking, and poof. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about the danger of, like, you know, blissful retreats, is that it doesn't see you're not really making progress, you're not really growing, you're just feeling good at the time.
Yeah. Yes, already, but it's wonderful to have a blissful retreat, and, you know, it's good if that happens. You know, because that also, like, it gives us the possibility that to experience that there is something else there also. Yeah. And that something else is actually available to me if I have some more space. But it's right. There's yeah, and that's a question in the mind of many practitioners. It's like, why is there such a difference between my retreats and my daily life, and how bring I these two together? So this is really like an open-ended question, or which we grow into when we maintain our practice and decades of practice. So then these two things, they come more together. And initially it seems to be like two different worlds, you know. So there's the retreat experiences, and then there's my family life, and, you know, how can they come together? And there's no obvious answer to that question. It's really an open-ended question, which will develop us into the answer of that question. We will become the answer of that question. Yeah, let's see if there's something else I wanted to. Yeah, so I mentioned yesterday, with this first 15, there could be also an exploration into shame, toxic shame, guilt, regret. What's the differences? And but I myself, I didn't have time to do a lot of research into that. Of course, I have thought about it a lot, but so we can start with saying that within the Buddhist psychology of the 51 mental factors, shame and guilt are seen as wholesome mental factors. Yeah? Whereas if we use the words shame and guilt, it's difficult for us to kind of put it into the category of wholesome, yeah? Because so what we usually would label as shame and guilt would be toxic shame and toxic guilt. Yeah? So maybe, yeah, so that's an interesting differentiation to make. Yeah, so and to get to know the positive quality of regretting a harmful action. Yeah. So that regret is, you know, what came just to my mind is I recently watched a YouTube video where John Halifax, a Zen teacher, she was giving a talk in Google, and there was this young guy saying the question, yeah, I feel guilty about some aspects of my work, and, you know, so And then she said, wow, that's great. I'm so happy that you feel guilty. Yeah. So that's like there is something there in the like, seeing where you're not aligned with your values and having a struggle with that and experiencing some pain. Yeah. Because that kind of guilt is constructive. It helps us to align with what is important to us. So if you would be a psychopath and you wouldn't have the capacity for that, then you would be able to do horrible things without having any kind of response to that. Yeah. But then there is this kind of guilt where we keep on beating ourselves up and continue and not being able. So there is then no kindness in that regret. Yeah. So there is that kind of healthy regret. Yeah, I hurt someone and I own it. I feel the pain of that. And that's one of the most difficult pains to hold. And it's, in a way, it's beautiful because it shows that you're a good person. Yeah, it's very unpleasant, but it shows that you're a good person. You regret that you have hurt someone. Yeah, but then there needs to be wisdom in it, and kindness and understanding, and seeing that you have hurt someone out of pain, and then you can do Tonglen practice with that. Yeah, so you can go through this experience not only for yourself, but you do it. You include others, and it's similar to other emotional challenges. The way out is through. The way out is through. So here, meaning feeling the pain of regret, standing up for it, but then not starting to beat yourself up for 10 years. Yeah? So that would be toxic shame, toxic guilt, which is the experience that you are a bad person. It's the identification with unworthiness, the trance of unworthiness, the trance of I'm a bad person. That I hurt my wife is a sign that I am a bad person. And that connects with a very deep felt sense, which comes probably from the pre-verbal phase in your life. A sense of that you are not worthy, a sense that you're not welcome, a sense that you are not a good person. And that's toxic. And it's not true. It's not true for everyone, for anyone. It's based on confusion. It's based on what is called ignorance. So that would be toxic shame. And we can become curious about it, starting to differentiate and being curious about, so what's shame? Where do I experience shame? Is there something constructive in it? Where is it distorted and confused and unkind and blaming? And then we can practice Tonglen with that. So I want to conclude with one aspect of unhealthy form of shame, and it's from the commentary of Ken McLeod. Another unhealthy form of shame is an insistent, relentless self-blaming. It is there even when neither personal nor social codes have been violated. So it's independent from you have done something. Yeah, it's independent. It's that sense of shame, that sense of guilt is there in the background. It's like almost a feeling of that's who I am. it's based on a resilient negative identity that is formed as a survival mechanism when you were abused or were unable to stop something terrible from happening. So this is, pointing to our psychological, personal history. And I really think that for us Westerners, as Western Dharma practitioners, I think we need to have a curiosity with our personal psychological history. We need to be trauma sensitive in our practice. But that's, that's my confusion, and as every teacher, I'm partial. Yeah. Because if you, and we are, traumatized in a broad sense, I'm not talking about necessary, sexual abuse or something. I'm talking about a situation where you were left alone in your bed because, your mother thought that would be a kind thing to do, or something like that. Something which happened to all of us. So if and that's, a survival mechanism, he says, when you abused or were unable to stop something terrible from happening. This form of shame is consistently accompanied by feelings of hopelessness and despair. So, and I believe if that is not, integrated in our practice and worked with, I mean, you can do your bodhichitta practice forever. It's not going to, you can't build a genuine compassion, a genuine bodhichitta on this deep sense of unworthiness. That bodhichitta is not based on a healthy foundation. It's also beautiful. On the aspirational level, it's beautiful. But to really embody compassion, it's impossible with the identification with that trance of unworthiness, that which is connected with your psychological history. It's here not because you are screwed up and you are a bad person. It's here because something happened to you. So I think that's the answer why some people, after decades of Tibetan Buddhist practice, feel nothing happened. Yeah, nothing happened because that was that thing there. That, I call it trauma. I'm almost like, everyone is talking about trauma. It's like I don't know a better word, but yeah, that's why nothing happens, because through our traditional Tibetan Buddhist practice, that is not addressed, and we carry it with us. So trauma-sensitive Dharma. Now trauma-sensitive yoga already exists. Yeah, you can do courses on Yoga International about trauma-sensitive yoga. Yeah, so it's coming because there's more money in it. But what we also need is trauma-sensitive Dharma practice. And of course, the Tibetans didn't need it. If you grow up in a culture where everyone sees you as a potential Buddha, yeah, so and genuinely, not like, yeah, you have Buddha nature. No, they see their children like that. Yeah, a child grows up having reflected in the eyes of his or her parents Buddhahood, the potential of Buddhahood. That's completely different than we grew up. So that was not my intention to make some advertising for trauma-sensitive Dharma. I didn't plan that. It was like just a spontaneous outburst. Okay, so let's just take a moment of rejoicing in our time together. And connecting with our initial intention of bodhichitta in the presence of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and His Holiness. And then we share the goodness of this meeting into all directions. So whatever good arose from our meeting, may it benefit all. And may people everywhere awake to their true nature. Okay, thank you very much. See you next time in December.
Thank you, Stephan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
goodbye.
So much, Stephan.